House Oversight Chair James Comer told the skeptical Jake Tapper that he thinks Special Counsel David Weiss indicted Hunter Biden on 9 federal tax counts last week in order to protect Joe Biden.
We have no idea what the Bidens were doing to receive this money. And we know one thing, Jake, they didn't pay a penny of taxes on it. So what he got charged with that indictment last night, that had nothing to do with all of these so-called loans that the Bidens have taken. We've identified, it appears, with the president's son and brother, over $14 million in loans, where it doesn't look like they've ever made any payments on principal or interest. And at what point do those loans, if you're not going to pay them back, become income?
After Tapper's sarcastic response saying, quote, yes, yes, he indicted him to protect him, end quote, Comer continued on to say if Hunter Biden was anybody else, he'd already be in prison. And while the first son appears to owe at least $2 million in back taxes, Comer said if the so-called loans investigators have uncovered are actually fraudulent, the taxes could be close to $7 to $8 million. So let's talk with president of wallbuilders.com, co-author of The American Story, Victory News contributor Tim Barton. Tim, welcome to Victory News.
Thanks, Greg.
It would appear that David Weiss skipped 3 essential areas in Hunter Biden's tax indictment: the Burisma Ukrainian money, Hunter Biden operating as an unregistered foreign agent, and Weiss avoiding any mention of Biden influence peddling. So is this all just a master class by the DOJ in how to protect Joe Biden?
Yeah, it's something very fascinating when you consider that there are so many indictments on Trump right now. And there's a lot of people that are very skeptical of what's happening with Trump. And by a lot of people, I mean independents and even some Democrats who are seeing what's happening to President Trump. And they're thinking, this doesn't pass the smell test. Something about this is not right. And so the idea is that maybe the DOJ, right, maybe they decided, hey, if we come out against Hunter Biden, let's not charge him with everything we could and probably what we should. But if we at least bring some charges, which he can plea down and plea out and, right, maybe even get some pardons on some of these, but let's charge him with something so then it looks like that we are fair and balanced, that we're not playing political games. And yet, as you mentioned, with some of the most significant charges that should have been there being left off, it certainly does seem like they're playing a game far more than they are interested in pursuing justice.
With that, there were accusations and explanations by the Justice Department as why he's not being indicted, talking about Hunter here. Once the status of the AG changed, we get indictments. Now, do you believe this is part of the plan to stop Congress from questioning Hunter?
I definitely think it could be a factor involved. They certainly would not want Hunter to be there. If Hunter goes to be questioned, I'm sure there's going to be an attorney with him. I'm sure he's going to be pleading the fifth and not divulging much information at all. He'll probably have a card with talking points that he will only say what those talking points are. I don't recall. I don't remember. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check. I'll have to get back to you. He will not want to divulge information that would further incriminate himself to what appears to already be a very guilty individual. But certainly it does seem like this is part of a game to keep Hunter Biden from going before Congress, where it can only do damage and harm to the Biden name and certainly to the Democrat Party.
Okay, speaking of hearings and talking points, fallout from the testimony of 3 major university presidents over the weekend, one captured in this moment on Capitol Hill with Elise Stefanik.
This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or
becomes
no?
if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide?
Liz McGill could not bring herself to condemn genocide against Jews, is no longer now the president of the University of Pennsylvania. Representative Stefanik posted online, quote, 1 down, 2 to go. Do the right thing. The world is watching, end quote. 74 House members sent a letter to u-penn, Harvard, and MIT calling for the resignation of all 3 presidents. Do you think Harvard and MIT will do the right thing and call for the resignation of their presidents?
I really don't. It will be contingent upon what the donors do, because we do know that there are some massive endowments at Harvard. MIT is also very financially well off. And I think one of the reasons that at the University of Penn, the president stepped down was because there was so much pressure from the donors saying, we're not going to keep giving money to you if this is the position you have, that you're going to say that students can cheer for Hamas, but then you're going to shut down any kind of conversation where people are saying Hamas is bad and Israel had been targeted, et cetera. And as for anybody that saw the longer exchange there in Congress, none of those three presidents were able to say that what was happening in Israel was bad and genocide and that shouldn't be cheered on their campuses. Utterly ridiculous. But ultimately, I think the philosophy of the universities is pretty woke. And so it would come down to, will the donors say we will not give you money unless you change positions? I think it's going to be a donor call more than the ideology of the universities.
What strikes me is they're so far removed from what they were founded as, Harvard and Penn. And you can go find that on wallbuilders.com and learn about those universities. Tim, thanks so much. Back to you in just a moment.